Right, so investments are very startup itself. Quick intro about myself. I started in crypto in 2017 when I was back at UCLA. So I started researching stuff in the AI, and that naturally just gave way to like crypto. Started my first venture back in 2018. You can think of it as the Airbnb of parking. Second company was back in 2022. It served decentralized LinkedIn on Ethereum. And this is third one, Ordinal Hive, which is a pro trading protocol for, Rune's Ordinal traders themselves. So what makes a successful startup? There's a couple elements here. The top three go more into like the structure, and the other top three more of like, the results or the stuff you do outside of, kind of the company structure itself. So first thing is timing, right? Timing is very difficult to get. I think you guys have a really good time in the market just because things are heating up, right? Things are heating up, especially on Bitcoin on sort of like, Rune's market. There's a lot more VCs coming back and sort of like eyeing projects and products to like kind of coming and invest in. So you guys hit a really good timing, and timing is very, very important. So some of the questions you gotta ask, like, is your product fulfilling a market need, or is there a trend happening, right? Second question is the bull bear market. I think we are approaching a bull market, which is really always really bullish, especially for anyone building a company. It's a lot easier to raise during a bull. And so those two things you gotta ask yourself, right? Like, what is the product fulfilling? What market need is the product fulfilling? And is it trending, right? What kind of trend are we in? Are we in a bull market? Are we in a bear market? Second thing is team, right? You need a solid team. And so like, you want to make sure your team has, like, first of all, are competent, have the skills necessary to fulfill like the product itself, right? So, you want to, kind of access that different skill sets. You want to access the marketing skill sets. You want to access like the back end engineering, front engineering, full stack even better, blockchain engineering even better as well. So like, you want to have that, kind of teammate, that founder who complements you. So who if you like find someone who can join your team, like make sure they have a skill set that's that complements your skill set, right? So like, if you're not technical, find a technical co-founder. If you're very technical, then find a non-technical co-founder who can help on the business side, marketing, all this stuff. At the end, they should all be putting work, and they should definitely complement your skill sets. Second thing is diverse background, right? It comes back to like, kind of the journey, sort of the skills they offer. The more skills you have as a founding team, the much better it is overall, and it makes your life a lot easier, right? Especially in the early beginning stages where you don't have capital. So like all of you have to put in like the effort, the work. You want to make sure you don't hire people outside from your core team and just like build something inside an MVP, which would touch base on in a second, within the individuals who either your co-founders, team members, all that cool stuff. Last thing too, for this first three set is idea, right? So you want to find a fulcrum. I think Albert touched upon this very, very well. Like, what's that pain point? What's that specific thing that, individuals or things that have not been built in the ecosystem yet? I think right now there's like a lot of projects out there who pretty much are touching on a lot of really core points, but there's so many other, great projects you can build as well, right? And we'll touch about this. Like, you wanna innovate, not compete. I think there's two different sides of approaching this kind of like, a problem. And I think innovating based off like, a specific need is always a good route forward. And then pivoting, right? Like pivoting is something I'm actually going to be talking about this later down the road, actually later down this month. So pivoting is very essential for a startup, especially if you're beginning, right? So like, who do you feel like when you ask yourself pivoting, right? Like, why should I pivot? Should I pivot? You got to ask yourself core questions. Did you find market product fit, right? Is what you're building what the users actually want, right? How do you validate that? We'll touch base on how to do that in a second. But those are specific questions you got to ask yourself. And but part of doing like, a startup, especially, pre-seed and the early stage, is like making really important decisions and fast. And that's a lot of it is validation, market feedback, customer surveys, interviews, all help kind of solidify whatever choice you make. I'm going to pause here for a second, and see if there's any questions from anyone. Cool. Okay, awesome. Cool. So next phase is to start lean validate early, right? So this is more of the core stuff. Like this is the thing you want to make sure to like really hone on. And I think I'm an expert in this because I've done this a couple of times, especially Ordinal Hive and my other ventures. So the first thing is you want to focus on the MVP, right? You want to focus on MVP and test your core ideas quickly and cheaply. Don't spend too much time on this, right? There's also other simple solution to this, which is also interview your customers build it around a power user. If you have one power user, one individual who you know like you're trying to sort of find that solution for that pain point, it's even better, right? So build an MVP, build it very, very quickly to test it out, and see if people like want like gravitate towards that itself. Again, like I just mentioned, like customer feedback is very, very important. That's literally real world data. That's the most important real world data you'll get. And from there, like, they'll give you feedback if that's exactly what they want. If that is, then you can just iterate and build from there, right? So you can perfect your product, make it better, add on to it, and go from there. So like build the skill bones skeletons first, get that first sort of validation feedback from the customers, and just iterate from there. And lastly, you want to also reduce like waste and only pivot when it's necessary, right? So when you ask those important questions like, should I pivot now? Should I do it later? Like what's going on? Like this here would let you know if you should pivot, right? Like if those real world, data points that you get back aren't what you like want in return or like aren't like isn't what you're looking for, then most likely a pivot is nearby, right? And then you have to go back to the fundamentals, go back to like your user base, your customers, and make sure like you're building something that they actually want to use, right? And so like, when that happens, you'll have genuine like, market product fit. They'll come into your Discord, engage with your product, and say like, using it. Retention is very, very important for that too. And there's different things that you'll see that will help serve solidify and make sure like, it lets you know that, oh yeah, this is the product that, I actually am building correctly for the team, for the people, for the users.